Welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Judah, hanging out with Afshin Banab, Chris Jerry, and Vincent Charles. Gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports here in the DMV and beyond. Let's talk about Super Bowl 48. That's beyond. It's beyond my comprehension, because what started out bad ended bad, and if you were Denver, it's just awful. Afshin.
If you were Seattle, it started off really good.
Yeah.
Ended really well.
That's right.
That was one of the biggest trounces I have seen in Super Bowl history.
That's right.
It was a crazy game, but it was all Seattle from beginning to end. Very first play of the game, a snap that goes by Peyton Manning into the end zone for a safety, and Seattle never looked back.
That's right. 43 Seattle Seahawks, Denver Broncos 8. Now, the weather, of course, wasn't a factor. The game was watched by more than 111.5 million. Folks, that is a record for the NFL, although Nielsen indicated that by the halftime, those numbers dropped off, and Fox, who aired the game, had to give a portion of the proceeds back to their advertisers only because they didn't hit their projected goals of expected audience. Chris?
Well, I found it an entertaining game, even though it was a blowout. I know a lot of people may have turned it off, but I was just fascinated with how well Seattle's defense played against Denver. You know, coming in, the talk was Peyton Manning, was this going to be a culmination of being the greatest ever? And Seattle showed them they had one of the best ever defenses to play in the Super Bowl.
That's right. As a matter of fact, on this very set, I actually chose the Seahawks to win, 35-28. And I based it on what Chris just said in regards to the defense. A lot of people didn't have Seattle pegged to actually put up a good fight, and they actually stopped, defense. The defense stopped Denver, and they were very effective, Vincent.
They did. Certainly effective. The results certainly surprised me. Denver just couldn't get started. They could not get out of the blocks. Offensively, turnovers, I think that's the biggest thing that hurt Denver. When you lose that turnover battle, Denver having 4 turnovers, Seattle with that defense, they took advantage of those turnovers.
That's right. And congratulations goes out, of course, to the Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll and general manager John Schneider. 4 years in the making, they put together this team. There's a certain team in this town that could actually take notes as to how to put together an award-winning team. And, of course, Russell Wilson won it on his, second try.
Yeah, he did win it on his second try, and this is a team, remember, contracts are going to be up in the next year or two, so this is a team that may not stay together much longer, so they only have a short window of opportunity to win another one and possibly even a third one before anything does happen. But the Skins could take a page out of Seattle's book for sure, at least to turn things around in the interim.
Now, Chris, you said that this game was very entertaining. What, in addition to what you found in terms of the defense of the Seahawks, other than that you found so entertaining about the game?
Well, I liked it because I saw the emergence of a young quarterback in Russell Wilson who was able to kind of move the team down the field. I just thought the defense was right on him. I mean, Peyton Manning, he threw a couple interceptions, including a pick 6. The defense just played, off the charts for Seattle in that game. And, I think people may have expected Seattle to win, but I don't think anybody expected the Denver defense or the Denver offense to be shut down totally like that. I want to also mention that you mentioned the general manager of Seattle and a certain team in town. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that gentleman actually worked in the personnel department for a certain team in town a few years ago. So that tells you something about what's going on locally and how they make their decisions.
Oh, yeah. Vincent?
I think an important part of that game was Percy Harvin. A lot of people, Harvin was hurt, and for Denver to have kicked the ball off to him at the end of the half and the beginning of the third quarter there, I didn't think that was a very good decision. They should have kicked that ball out of bounds.
That's
and
right.
he was a crucial part of that game.
And other parts of the game was basically at the end of the first half. I mean, why would you go for a touchdown as opposed to going for a field goal? I couldn't figure that one out. So that kind of got me just a little bit. And the look on the distraught look on Peyton Manning's face was one that I've never seen before. I mean, he looked like a gerbil in a huge Ferris wheel, just spinning and spinning and spinning.
That Seattle defense was stifling, and the way it looked, as if Seattle knew every single play that Denver was calling. Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Cliff Averill, they all knew what was going on the field at that exact time. Just by the way Denver set up, whether they went to a 3-out, a 4-wide, whatever they did, Seattle was always prepared for it.
And you know that's what Richard Sherman said. He said they knew what was coming.
He heard me.
Question for you guys. Does Peyton Manning stay another year with the Broncos to get that coveted and elusive second Super Bowl win and ring? Chris?
If his physical comes out okay, sure, I think he'll be back for next year and maybe another 2 or 3.
Afshin?
Yeah, depending on how it is physically, and I think John Elway will want him back, so he'll come back.
I agree with you guys. I think he'll come back, provided the medical people give him the approval.
All right, let's talk about the state of the NFL. Normally, as you guys know, and usually during Super Bowl week, the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, holds his state of the NFL. Now, there's 2 things that I found so interesting during this press conference, and we're going to talk about those. The first one, when he suggested or said that concussions are significantly down from 2012. And the other one was he was asked a question as to whether or not the NFL would consider the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes, to which he joked and said, hey, I'm tested, periodically myself. I mean, but the bottom line is, question for you guys, should the NFL go there?
I think if the country is going there, then the NFL has no choice. It is interesting that the 2 teams in the Super Bowl are from states where it's legal to have marijuana.
That's right.
But I think, as we all see with other things in this country, there's a shift that's moving, and I think maybe within 5 to 10 years, it'll probably be something that's legal.
Well, we look at things such as what recently happened in the news, and we talk about actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, what happened to him in terms of what they alluded to, perhaps marijuana being a gateway drug. We're not going to debate that here, but the bottom line is it may be kind of different and may not be in the NFL's best interest. I figured I would put that out there. Vincent, your thoughts?
It certainly is a can of worms, gentlemen. The NFL, I agree with you, Chris. If the country's going that way, the NFL will go that way. But I don't believe they'll go in a way that they'll promote it, okay? Right. Just like athletes, football players use alcohol, but the NFL does not promote it. They'll look the other way because that's the way the country's going.
Now, we had a separate conversation on the ride up to one of my second jobs in the media yesterday, and you kind of stated that perhaps you were against the use of marijuana in sports.
Yes.
So I figured I would make that, bring that out to the forefront. Afshin?
I think it will be done. I think it will be used in the NFL within not 10 years, but 5 years. And I think it'll be used more for medicinal purposes than anything else. And it is the way the country is shifting, just like on a lot of other social justice issues, the same way with marijuana. Now, what happened to Philip Seymour Hoffman, that was something totally out of the realm as far as those drugs that were used. But I think, Kevin, in another 5 years, we may see it used at least legally in the NFL for medicinal purposes.
That's right. Now, Philip Seymour Hoffman, I brought that up because in Congress they use that as perhaps a reason as to, we should not go ahead and legalize marijuana for the sake of, because it's a gateway drug. Like I said, we're not here to debate that. Right. We're just talking about the NFL in regards to whether or not this could be an acceptable use in terms of the NFL. Concussions is a different thing. They flashed up 3 numbers. I'm not good at math. All of them confused me. First, it was 70%. Was it 15% of 70% that they were down? I have no idea. It completely confused me, and that seems to be an ongoing kind of a stigma in the NFL when it comes to concussion.
I have to see the numbers on that. I don't know. I have heard.
Which set you want to see?
Yeah, I know. Roger Goodell's or some other owners, but I have heard that the concussions are down. I'd like to know where they got that from and what kind of research they did on it. I'm sure it has something to do with the new rules that are in place, especially how you attack an offensive player and whatnot. But if they're down, then more power to them.
That's right.
I hope it's accurate and I hope it's true.
All right, we want to remind everyone that you're watching the nation's capital sports show on Comcast 69 and Fios 38 via Arlington Independent Media. Chris.
No, I was just going to say that one of the things you have to keep in mind is, do you really think if concussions were up, the National Football League would come out and say that? I think they can use the statistics to say what they want them to say.
That's true. I like that. And so we're going to let that in on that particular note, and we're going to go and talk about the 2012 Winter Olympics in Sochi. And so we're going to start this out amid the pomp and pageantry of the opening ceremonies and the security concerns of protecting athletes. The 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia, have begun. So let's the games begin. There are over 88 countries being represented and participating, and 230 athletes representing the United States of America. In addition to that, as the Winter Games progress, we're going to hear stories of, from trainers and athletes as to what it took for them to train and be selected and be a part of the 2014 Winter Olympics. You got to love those backstories. Afshin.
Oh, yeah, there's some great stories locally and nationally and even worldwide. Ashley Wagner from here, West Potomac High School in figure skating. She's doing a really good job at this point. There's Julia Lipakowski from Russia, the 15-year-old sensation who's dazzled audiences. She's just 15 years old and has already dazzled audiences. We've got an American who won a snowboarding. We have Hannah Kearney, who won the bronze after coming off the 2010 gold at Vancouver, and she decided to call it quits.
And the newly introduced sport, of course, slopestyle. Congrats goes to Jamie Anderson for picking up that gold medal. Chris.
Yeah, for me, I'm just kind of watching as it goes on. I'm looking forward to the speed skating with Shawnee Davis and the hockey. But to be honest, this is one of those things I'll let you guys have that portion. I'm not really interested in the Winter Olympics all that much.
All right.
I think the events like the skiing and the figure skating, they're always very popular. But things like the luge, the bobsledding, the snowboarding, the freestyle skiing, that's all very interesting too. And Chris did mention the speed skating. Also, the hockey is going to be very interesting because we all know number 8's playing for Russia.
Well, and as you mentioned that, Russia actually won against Germany today. And I had an opportunity to watch that. Someone had stopped me here and said, "Why your eyes look so bloodshot?" That's because I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning watching the Olympics around the clock, although this game aired today around about 11 a.m. Today, of course, as of this broadcast.
It's always good, 2014 Winter Olympics. You know what? The bobsled team, I want to watch just because I want to see Jamaica and how they do. The Jamaican bobsled team is back. But there's one thing I want to point out. The Winter Olympics, obviously not as popular as the Summer Olympics nationally and internationally. You could see one day some of those games in the Summer Olympics being played in the Winter Olympics because it's not really a seasonal event, such as basketball, such as gymnastics. So don't be surprised one of these days down the road you might see something like that.
All right, so here's a question for you guys. I don't know if you want to participate in this because, Chris, I know you just finished alluding to that. The Winter Olympics are not necessarily your cup of tea, but I figure I'm going to throw this out there to you guys anyway. Besides ice hockey and figure skating, what are some of the other watch-me sports in the 2014 Winter Olympics? Afshin.
Ever since 1980, I've always watched speed skating because of Eric and Beth Hayden, and I still watch it to this day. So speed skating will be one thing I watch along with hockey.
Vincent.
I would say speed skating, also the luge events.
All right. Chris, you want to
go ahead?
Well, why not?
Give me the downhill slalom and the ski jumping. I can watch that too.
Wow. Well, thanks a lot, gentlemen. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Coming up next, we're going to talk more sports here. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk basketball. How about that? This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. We have Chris Jerry, Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles. I'm Kevin Jeter, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Kevin Jeter hanging out with my colleagues and Chris Jerry, Afshin Banab, and Vincent Charles. Gentlemen, let's continue our conversation talking about sports. But before we get into that, you can check out our brand new website at www.tncss.net, although no one usually does www these days because people know that the rest is a kind of arbitrarily, and that's where you go to check out the best in sports. Let's talk about our local college basketball. And two teams that I picked to start off this conversation, of course, is Mike Longerin, head coach of the George Washington Colonials. And then, of course, we have Mike Brennan, head coach of the American University Eagles. Both teams are doing good so far. Let's talk first about the George Washington Colonials, Afshin?
Well, they're doing really well this year. 19-4 out of the Atlantic 10. They're just behind the St. Louis Billikens. I think they're 2 games behind, 2 maybe 3 games behind them. They are putting on a really good show this year, and I have to, arguably, you can say they are the best team locally, Chris.
Arguably. Yeah, Mike Lonergan, he's done a fantastic job. And this is a guy that, if you follow college basketball, when he got that job at GW, you had a sense that that program was going to turn around because, he's got the roots there, did a fantastic job when he was up at Vermont for a while. So he's the kind of guy that could turn that program around. And I think, based on the fact that the Atlantic 10 is a competitive league, I think GW can look at doing
Yes.
a little dancing in March.
Yes.
I think they're going to be one of the teams that will get an at-large selection if they don't win the division.
All right, let's get Vincent get in here.
GW, they're playing great at home, great fan support. I look for them to make a little noise in March.
Yeah, you never know. And non-conference, they're 12-2, and Afshin alluded to, they're 19-4, and you got to love what you see.
Yeah, they are. Lonergan's been there, what, now, 4 years?
This is third year.
Third year now?
Yeah.
And Chris alluded to him being at Vermont, really turned Vermont around. Actually, they made the NCAA tournament for the first time when he was there a while ago, for the first time, I think, in their history, or for certainly a long time. So he really knows how to play basketball. He's got his X's and O's down. He does a lot of what Pete Carroll used to do at Princeton. He believes in back doors. He believes in screens and that sort of thing. And that's something you can't defend against in college basketball.
And that's old school basketball as
Old
well,
school,
too. You got to
yeah.
like that. Let's skip on over and talk about, the American University Eagles. I mean, they're doing pretty good.
They are doing well. They are in second place in the Patriot League, actually tied for first in the conference with Boston University. Unlike the Atlantic 10, the Patriot League is only going to get one team to go to the NCAA tournament and put on those Cinderella slippers. And AU would have to win it outright in order to do that. But they're doing really well under Brennan this year. They've got a bunch of players on that team who are juniors and sophomores, and I think all 5 starters are underclassmen, so they should be back next year.
Well, the thing is about American University, with Jeff Jones leaving to go to Old Dominion, you didn't really know what you were going to get coming into this year, but American's done real well. Now, they have lost their last 2, and so now they've slipped into a tie with Boston University, and that's really one of the surprise teams in the league because Boston University is just coming into the Patriot League. But the cool thing about that league is with their tournament, it's a home court-based tournament, and so your championship game is hosted on the court of the highest seed. So if you're American, you want to try to get as high a seed, possibly a number 1 seed, so that game can be up there at AU.
Vincent.
American, they're very much in it to get the chance to go to the big dance, especially now that they're starting to get back players that were injured. They had 3 guys that were injured. Those guys, 2 of them are back, so they're going to be a force to be reckoned with the rest of the way.
And as Chris alluded to, they have to consistently win.
Yeah.
Darius Gardner will carry that team. As far as he goes, that's how far the team goes. He's one of their top players, so they have to do well in the Patriot League. There's no 3 or 4 teams coming out of that league, as Chris had just mentioned. It's just one team that's going to make the tournament. They've got to win it, and they got to play at home.
Now, I got to tell you guys that normally it's Afshin and Chris. They're usually our collegiate basketball experts here. Any other teams besides American University and, of course, the George Washington Colonial stand out area-wise in this area?
Well, obviously Georgetown is starting to pick it up a little bit, but you know what? Another team I would say coming out of the Atlantic 10, and I assume we're going to call them local, is Virginia Commonwealth, the Rams of VCU, having a really good season again in the Atlantic 10. It's much tougher this year for them, but I think that they might be able to surprise people if they get to the tournament.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, looking at it, that right now, if I had to pick 3 teams that I would say are locks coming out of Atlantic 10 right now, it would be St. Louis, it would be GW, and it would be Virginia Commonwealth at the top, and maybe another team or 2. The Atlantic 10 is probably, with the Big East, the best basketball conference that doesn't play football. So those are your 2 basketball-first conferences, and they'll probably provide 3 or 4 teams. Of course, since we're going to talk about the local scape, we cannot help but leave out Tony Bennett's 10-1 University of Virginia Cavaliers, the surprise team in the ACC. Great chance to win it. So if we're going to talk about who's the best local team, even though Charlottesville is 120 miles from Washington, D.C., we must say Wahoo Wah for the Cavaliers.
I'm happy for you, Chris, and I'm happy for Virginia because you had mentioned on a show that we did back in December that you wanted, the head coach of the basketball team, Tony Bennett, gone if he didn't perform.
That's right.
Perhaps he heard you, man.
right.
That's absolutely right.
They're playing really well. I think
yes.
they've cracked the top 25, and maybe they'll really get higher as the season goes on. And you know what? And they're doing it without Joe Harris being the focal point of the team, of that whole team and that whole scheme. So good for the Cavs.
And I'm looking forward to March 16th. As you know, that's Selection Sunday. And then after that, of course, you have a few days where they actually go through the selection process of all the teams. And it's exciting, Vincent.
Yes, it is. And I got to include Virginia along with VCU.
Well, I'll just say this in closing this little portion is that I hope that we can also get maybe Georgetown in. They've had a bad middle of the season, but if they can get a good run coming into the end of the season, they could be definitely in play for getting a spot. And let's not forget Kevin's University of Maryland, because at the end of the day, if you make a good run coming in your last 10 games of the season and they've got some good teams to play to make a run, they could possibly get into the run for a large spot.
Can you imagine that? We might have 4 or 5 teams
Yeah, I
the way
know.
we're talking.
I know.
The way we're talking. Hey, put Howard in it.
That's right.
There you go.
Good looking out, Chris. Way to
Not
mention
putting
the University
Howard-
of Maryland,
sorry,
the Terps.
Shelby,
I love
we're
it,
not
man.
putting Howard in it.
All right, we're going to let you guys have the last one on that. Let's parlay over to a new segment that we're going to feature periodically, and that is on our Facebook page at the Nation's Capital Sports Show. Actually, it's www.facebook.com. There I go again, /TNCSS, the Nation's Capital Sports Show. I'm going to read a few things out, and then we're going to get you guys to talk about that. Let's start off with the NBA. Wizards' John Wall, of course, he gets chosen to his first All-Star game as a reserve.
Good for him. I think he deserves it. 20 points a game, 8 assists a game. Also in the slam dunk contest. So it's finally well deserved for him. I think he's had a pretty good year.
Vincent.
Certainly well deserved. I can't wait to see the slam dunk contest. Walt is playing much better. He deserves it. The whole team is playing much better, and it's nice to see.
That's right. I mean, they've been going up and down. They've been teetering at the brink of 500 all season, but you got to like what you see, Chris.
Yeah, I'm glad for Wall to finally make it. He's supposed to be carrying the franchise, so for him to finally make an All-Star game, that's a good thing.
All right, let's talk about in Major League Baseball. Managers will be allowed to challenge at their discretion a swath of plays, including tags to hit by pitches. Let's do that over again. From tags to hit by pitchers, fan interference. Question, will this slow up games? Your thoughts. First, we'll start with you, Chris.
No, I don't think it'll slow it up. You're only going to get one challenge up to the 6th inning, and after the 6th inning, everything is called from there. So I don't think it's going to slow it up.
All right, Vincent.
Right now, the way it stands, I don't think it'll slow the game up. And I think the Major League Baseball administrative officials will do their best to make sure that these games aren't any longer.
All right. Could you conceivably see this type of structure come down to games that mean a lot, come down to these decisions?
Come down to
Heated
like a final
contest,
play.
final
yeah.
play.
Yeah, it could. I mean, that's what a lot of the fans are going to say that they want. And of course, it may go against some of their
Yeah, I know.
their teams.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? That's what it will eventually come down to. But this way, you'll get, I guess, a proven winner.
That's right.
You know, so.
We'll see how that
But
goes.
it won't slow down either. I agree with the gents here. It won't slow it down too much.
I agree with you guys, too. All right, so in celebration of Black History Month, I'm going to throw out a few things to you guys. I'm going to read from this. In 1986, Debbie Thomas became the first black woman to win the U.S. figure skating singles championship. She was also the world champion that year, as well as a bronze medalist at the 1988 Winter Olympics.
Debbie Thomas was one great skater. She was in Calgary, and she did a really fine job there. And I was sorry not to see her continue her Olympic career, but she just went for, 1 or 2 Olympics, and that was it for her, because she started very young. But she was a great skater for the American team.
All right, Vincent, real quick.
That was a great performance back then. I remember that.
All right, Chris.
I remember Katarina Witt was the one that won the gold. But, Debbie was one of the favorites going in, and, God bless her, earned her bronze.
All right. This, of course, you can check on the Nation's Capital Sports Show Facebook page at the facebook.com/TNCSS. In 1985, Lynette Woodard became the first woman to join the infamous Harlem Globetrotters basketball team. And around that same time, Cheryl Miller, remember her, became one of the most decorated high school and collegiate women's basketball players in history, leading the U.S. team to a gold medal in the 1984 Olympics. Afshin.
Yeah, great career she had in college, and as she moved forward, she was a great player. A lot of people look at Cheryl Miller and they look at Reggie Miller rather, and they say that's Cheryl's brother, rather than looking at Cheryl and say that's Reggie's sister. She was a great player, and she's a pretty good interviewer too. So
Yeah.
I like seeing her on TV once in a while.
Yeah, Vincent.
Great player from a great basketball family. Great tradition in that family.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Woodard was a great college player at Kansas, but for my money, even now, 30 years after she played, Cheryl Miller, without a question, is the best female basketball player ever.
That's right. And
End of story.
Yeah. His humble opinion, I got to kind of agree with him too. That's why I posted it and stuff. You can check this out at the Nation's Capital Sports Show Facebook page /TNCSS.net. Well, Afshin, we come to the end of the road, man. You know,
It
parting
sure
is
is.
such sweet sorrow, but we had a legion of folks here at AIM
That's
that
right.
are also instrumental in making us look and sound good. And that's kind of hard to do for a sagey bunch of guys here. But I digress.
Our producers, Kevin Sampson, Devin Gallagher. Yeah, I've got to read it because I don't want to miss anybody. Director Charles Smith, Rhonda Mendoza, LJ Lacoma. Our camera operators, Craig Syfax, Kimberly Phillip, Sally Galestino. Our floor manager, Victor Villar. And Kevin, you know what? One more point here. You can always watch us here on Arlington Independent Media, Sundays at 3 p.m., Fridays at 9:30 p.m.
Wow.
The Nation's Capital Sports Show.
Let's do that.
All right.
And don't forget one other place,
Where's that?
the YouTube page.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
could do that, too.
That's right. We're all over the place.
So many.
man.
We are social media, aren't we?
Yeah, I know. And of course, Jessie Pye couldn't make it here today. We wish her son speedy recovery. By the way, her son did choose the Seahawks to win. And his formula that he used was he liked the colors of the Seahawks. Go figure.
I'm not surprised. I want him to pick my NCAA tournament team then.
All right, for the entire AIM crew here, as well as the Nation's Capital Sports Show team, I'm Kevin Jeter with Afshin Banab, Chris Jerry, and Vincent Charles. May you go out and have a great sporting day as well as a great sporting week. For the Nation's Capital Sports Show, take care, and thanks for watching, and thanks for listening.